Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and today I'm gonna tell you my 5 tips to get a clean mix. Let's get started. So I started this project in the morning just for the purpose of explaining the 5 tips, and the number one tip that I can give you is to always use the best quality samples, tune them in the key of your track, and to always tighten them up as much as you want them to sound in the track. So for an example, I'm using this cymatics kick right here in this track. So I've actually layered two of them for more punch. Now if we just cancel this out, just play this one. As you can see, it has a lot of boomy, lot of roomy tail, and this, as soon as we start making this loud enough inside of the track, this will consume a lot of audio in the track, and it would just kill all of your low end and some of your mid end, and we don't want that type of clashing inside of the frequencies. So a very simple trick would be to just make it tight enough, somewhere around there seems like a good place to be in. And we can do the same with our clap. So this is a clap. Now, as you can see, the clap again has a very long tail. And then again, with this same idea, if you started mixing this, making this loud enough, it would start killing a lot of frequencies, just clashing a lot of frequencies because of this tail. So again, we are going to just make it tight enough, somewhere around there. So just making your drums tight enough so they just use as much audio spectrum as they should makes a very big difference inside your mix. The second tip that I can give you is,
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
yeah, I wrote them down because I don't remember a lot of things. Okay, I have a bad memory. So the second trick that I can tell you is equalization. Equalization will put your mix from being a 6 out of 5 out of 10 to at least a 8 to 9 out of 10, because EQing is everything when it comes to cleaning up your mix. Right here I have this particular sound. So in this particular sound I'm going to be showing you three techniques that I use when I'm EQing. So the number one technique is always controlling your frequencies. Now right here, as we can see, the sound is somewhere around in the mid section. Now when we are controlling frequencies, I'd like to give you this small advice that just don't cut a lot of frequencies. Like, we don't want it to get down to here or somewhere there, because it just wouldn't sound very well. And then again, in the complete mix, it would just like the frequencies in there would just feel a lot emptier than they actually should. So somewhere around there. So this is more like controlling your frequencies, where just we're creating this house around the track, around the sound, so that it just does not exit this and clashes with other frequencies. The second one is to always have this much of a lookout in your sounds, that if there are some harsh frequencies that are lagging, that are just creating very bad resonance, to always cancel them out. So this particular technique is what I use when I cancel out the frequencies. If we control the gain back to normal, if we increase the gain right here, so this way we can kind of identify the type of frequencies that are going to, again, when the tracks are being mixed and when they are being loud, these frequencies will start to irritate the ear of any person who's listening to the track. Now that right there is a very resonant frequency, and we just have to turn the gain down. It's already cleaner enough right there. So creating these notches, I've just created one for an example. You can create as much as you want to if you feel like your track or your sound has a lot of resonant frequencies. The third component that we have inside of EQing is dynamic EQing. So dynamic EQing is basically side chaining inside of EQing, as I would say. It's basically ducking, controlling, creating notches in your tracks, in your sound, that will automatically go down if any other frequency is taking that particular audio spectrum or audio space. So this right here is an example. I've created this particular example with the automation. So it's cutting down this particular frequency every time this sound takes the first hit. You can always use third-party plugins like FabFilter Pro MB. There's this particular plugin called Soothe. So you can use all of those plugins, and they give you this feature where you can kind of do the dynamic EQing. In case you're layering a lot of tracks, dynamic EQing is the go-to thing to create a very good balance inside of them. Now, the third tip that I can give you is to never overdo your effects. Now, by overdo, I mean that if you are going for some certain type of sound, some certain type of mix, then it is definitely no foundation that you have to just use this amount of effects. But in general, if you're just trying to get a decent mix, and if you're just overusing your effects, you will end up having clashing frequencies, muddy mix. So in this particular sound, I'm using three different reverbs, and these reverbs are pushing it in the back of my head, and it is not just coming through as it should. In this particular case, I'm trying to explain that in a case that you say make some sound in a plugin, say for example in Serum, and if that particular sound already has reverb, wherein you have used the reverb in your Serum effects, or for that matter any plugin, any VST that you can have, silence, spire, whatever. So in that case, if that plugin, if that particular patch already has some amount of reverb, delay, any particular effect on it, and if you again put it back, that particular effect being doubled again with different kind of control, with different fine tuning, would create anomalies and different type of resonating sounds inside of your track, which is going to again make it a very muddy mix. So this right here has three mixes, three reverbs. If I just cut down one of these, it's a little ahead. If I cut down another one of these, it's more ahead. Now we know that both of these were just making it muddy enough, because one of this is enough. We would just try and get the decay time down. Maybe a little bit of size. Right there, it's more ahead, more in the front of the mix. So just a small example, that if you're using effects like reverb, delay, stuff like whatever, you got my point, whatever I was trying to make. Now, the fourth tip that I can give you is stereo spacing. By stereo spacing, I mean there are three components in stereo spacing. One, you are making your sound being panned to left or to right. Two, you are opening up the stereo space, or just widening the stereo space of your sound, being from 100% mono to 100% stereo. And the opposite of that, sorry, I just had a lot of chips, whatever. And the opposite of that, that you're creating, that you're making your sound go from 100% stereo to 100% mono. Now, some very basic tips, that your kick and your sub bass will always be in mono inside of a track. So this particular sub bass, I'm using a very basic technique of utility, where I'm just putting the bass mono on, and I'm telling it how many, or how, like, before how much number frequencies I want to get mono. What the hell has happened to my English?
P H O S P H O R U yes.
I'm just telling the utility to control the frequencies in mono before this particular number. So before 134 hertz, every frequency is now in mono. So always put your basses in mono, always put your kicks in mono. Now, then again, you can always try more elements, try more things to do. Whereas, as in, if you have say 5 layers, you can put something on the left, put something on the right, make something a little mono, something a little stereo. That way you can give your sounds each one of its own space inside of a spectrum, so that it doesn't clash that much and it kind of creates a groove. Now, the fifth and the most important tip that I can give you grabs all the tips that I have told you till now, and it's leveling your mix. Now, leveling your mix will always and always be dependent on your ear training. So, as much as you're practicing, as much time as you're putting inside of your music, the more you will improve, the more your ears will improve in terms of just grabbing sounds, in terms of identifying sounds and making your mix better. So leveling your sounds is something that should be your A number point as soon as you go inside of a track. So as soon as you drag something inside of the arrangement, you should always have it in your mind that this particular sound is somewhere around going to be this much loud or in the track. Because from the start, if you put your sounds as carefully as possible in terms of leveling, the end mix will always sound better. So definitely practice as much as you can and put your time into the basics of leveling and how much of particular volume would every sound consume in your mix. And that's it. Those were my 5 tips. Now I'm gonna mix this track with these 5 tips, and then we are gonna see what the result is. Let's get this.
2,000 years later.
So here's the final track for you guys. If you like what I've done, if you like the tips that I gave you, just subscribe to the channel, drop a like, share it with your friends. If you want to ask me anything else regarding these tips or anything regarding any kind of production, just drop it in the comments and I'll be very happy to answer any of the questions. And just stay home because it's Corona time. Bye bye, take care.